This is the 13th. Yeah, it's a great number. 13th Cyclodextrin Masterclass of CarboHyde. So it's a kind of a great initiative we started 1.5 years ago or so. And today we'll talk about the non-pharmaceutical uses of cyclodextrins. Yeah, the topic will be specific to this area. So common uses in the pharma field will not touch. And as you will see, I'll focus mainly on marketed examples and kind of case studies and drive backwards how they were developed and why they were developed with cyclodextrins. So you will see a lot of examples, a lot of commercial applications of cyclodextrins, but not so much technicalities. So I will not go into details how these were developed or what is the technology um, that incorporates cyclodextrins into these products. But okay, if you have questions about these, you can ask anytime. If you haven't been to our webinars, I'll tell you very briefly how it will look. So we'll keep you for an hour or so. Okay, not more than an hour. So we'll stop at 3 latest. And the talk itself is about 45 minutes. And during the talk, I'll ask all of you to switch off the audio. So I'll be the only one talking, hopefully. And afterwards, you can type all your questions, comments, remarks, anything into the chat box, and I'll go through all the questions in a kind of Q&A type of session at the end, trying to tackle every question that is in my knowledge to answer. Otherwise, we can follow up outside the meeting. So, let's jump in because, of course, the topic is huge. But why is this an important topic? So, cyclodextrins has been known in various industries for a very long time. Since the 70s, they are used, so over 50 years. But they started in pharma, and the innovation always came from pharma for a very long time, in the first 40 years. And as you will see nowadays, in the past 10 or so years, these trends, there's a paradigm shift. And you'll see that now new derivatives are coming outside pharma, new innovation is coming outside pharma, new applications are coming outside pharma, and I'll try to explain what could make this happen. So why is there a paradigm shift here? So where the innovation from the cyclodextrin lies currently. For those who are rookies in cyclodextrins, just one or two slides. So we are talking about ring-shaped sugar molecules that originate from starch. So these are completely natural compounds themselves. But here in these hydroxyl groups, you can modify them. So from the natural ones, they can be derived into different synthetic derivatives. There are uses in almost all kinds of industries, and today we are not talking about pharma, but we'll talk about everything else. Um, and of course, even within pharma, the dominant excipient used is being replaced by other applications, but that's the topic for another discussion. So how cyclodextrins typically work? So here is this ring-shaped molecule that has a cavity, and the cavity has a fatty nature, a hydrophobic nature. So it's a nice environment to encapsulate, to incorporate, as you can see here, fatty molecule. So this fatty molecule enters the cavity of the cyclodextrin and it forms a complex. And this complex is not very stable, so it can fall apart pretty easily. In some cases, it's stronger. In some cases, it's less strong. And as long as the active ingredient is within the cyclodextrins, its apparent properties change. So we could say that the original properties of the molecules are masked by the cyclodextrin. What does it mean? It means that someone has the microphone on. So it means that it can reduce or uh, reduce the taste or a smell of a molecule, the toxicity, irritation. At the same time, it can increase the solubility, stability, absorption, and so on. I'm sorry, but I have to mute you, whoever that is who is talking. I'm sorry. So this is how cyclodextrins work, and this is not important for the products on the market, but it's important for the type of cyclodextrins. So alpha, beta, and gamma, these are the unmodified native cyclodextrins. They differ in the cavity size, and these are chemical modifications. So if you go to the cyclodextrin market, which is of course not something that's existing, these are the 7 cyclodextrins that you can buy. And from the non-pharmaceutical perspective, these 5 are important. So alpha, beta, and gamma, these are very important mainly for food reasons because these 3 compounds are on the GRAS list. So these are the components of all the food and nutraceutical products that we'll talk about. And the 2 chemical modifications, hydroxypropyl beta and random methyl beta, are very important for household products, chemical industry, as well as cosmetics. And as you will see, there are other cyclodextrins which are not on the list, but these are the typical ones. Just a few words. I told you that, okay, you can put an active ingredient into the cavity of the cyclodextrin just for one slide. There are a lot of ways how to put this active ingredient into the cavity of the cyclodextrins. You can do it in liquid phase, common solution, common suspension, precipitation, and so on. It can be done in a semi-solid phase, like an extrusion or a granulation technology, or even solid phase with a milling type of technology. So industrially, it's a very flexible technology. So how I divided the lecture is we go topic by topic, and okay, uh, we tackle each industry one after the other, and we'll start with the food industry. So technically, food industry uses, and by food I mean real foods, as you will see, as well as nutraceuticals. So everything that's going into the human body. And we can differentiate 2 concepts. The first one is where the cyclodextrin is used in the complex form. So you load something into the cyclodextrin, and that is what you are eating. And this technology you can use to stabilize flavors, in controlled release, to improve the bioavailability, especially in case of nutraceuticals, of a lot of components. Or the other application is to use empty cyclodextrins, so the cyclodextrins on their own. And in the food space, one application is taste and odor masking, although it's more rare. Sorry, alpha cyclodextrin can also be used as a dietary fiber. So they have their beneficial effects on their own. Gamma cyclodextrin, since it can be digested by bacteria, can be considered as a prebiotic as well. And there are clinical studies, which I'll talk about later, that highlight the health benefits of eating empty cyclodextrins. And I realized I just mixed up 2 slides. So this should have come first because it's not a food application. Before food application, I wanted to say something that's closest to the pharma industry. It's an imaging technology. So here in this case, and this kind of recording has been done with the support of the cyclodextrin. So here they use a very special cyclodextrin, which is called 2,6-dimethyl beta cyclodextrin, and its ability to bind cholesterol, and with the help of this cholesterol removal, after the death of the animals, they could visualize, so they could help the staining and visualize the endogenous proteins and different antibodies within the animals. It has been verified via different mouse models, and it's already commercialized. So based on the technology, there is a German company that has been created. The beauty here is that this cyclodextrin was known for a long time, but it was used for a completely different application. But its ability to bind cholesterol was also known. What they came up with is that technically it's the combination of how the cholesterol binding affinity of the cyclodextrin can be exploited in the imaging that led to the wonderful discovery. The pictures are amazing, by the way, if you check the website of the company. So, getting back to foods, first we go with cyclodextrins that are unloaded. So I mentioned that particularly alpha cyclodextrin has a lot of clinical evidence for activity on its own, even without a gas. So alpha cyclodextrin is non-digestible, so it really acts as a dietary fiber. It's safe. It's on the GRAS list. And it's a fairly cheap cyclodextrin. And as a dietary fiber and as a starch derivative on its own, it's pretty easy to formulate it into a food supplement. As you can see here in the examples, and the health benefits associated with consuming alpha cyclodextrins have a huge interest nowadays, as you can see, like weight loss, fat binding, cholesterol reduction, and effects like that. So we have a cyclodextrin with a very well-known safety record and proven clinical benefits that can be used fairly easily to make food supplements. It has a bright future. What else can we put? So when we are talking about more complex food and we add cyclodextrin to the food, what are the benefits? So this kind of dietary fiber feature can, of course, not only be used when it's a standalone food supplement, but it can be incorporated into other products like bread, uh, pasta, well, different kinds of foods. Different emulsions, foams, and okay, it can help or it certainly affects and can improve the texture of certain compounds, improve taste. It's claimed, I tasted breads and pastas made with cyclodextrin, so that's not the first feature that would come into my mind. Cyclodextrins do not have taste themselves, but okay, so it's tasteless something. It's not really improving taste unless it's removing some bitterness or it's masking the taste of something. But the glycemic index of these compounds are certainly lower that contain cyclodextrins, and the insulin generation, so the insulin peak after consuming these products are also lower because the cyclodextrin retains some of the components and lowers the absorption. So it's a good additive in these cases. Some other applications, cholesterol removal. This was one of the first. So when they realized that beta cyclodextrin can bind cholesterol and form an insoluble complex, it became fairly easy to add beta cyclodextrin into the process of creating certain, usually dairy products, so like butter or this kind of eggs. We don't have this one in Hungary, but okay, it looks like some kind of pre-prepared egg, something. So you add the cyclodextrin, the cholesterol precipitates as a cyclodextrin complex. You just filter out, and you get a cholesterol-free product. And this was created in many cases. Also, cyclodextrin, alpha cyclodextrin particularly, can be used as an emulsifier. So it can be used instead of eggs, or in some cases, supplementing uh, milk in certain types of cakes or foams or toppings and stuff like that. So it's uh, vegetable derived starch derivative, so it comes from corn and potatoes. It's a very appealing alternative in a lot of food processes. Here you can see it's a Walker illustration, a topping made with cyclodextrin. I also ate cyclodextrin ice cream and pudding and stuff like that. So it's completely fine. Why else would we use cyclodextrins in food products? So, as I said, we can incorporate different type of active ingredients into the cyclodextrin, and there the goal is pretty straightforward, similarly to pharma, to make the bioavailability higher, a better absorption, better solubility, better stability, to turn an essential oil into a powder. So these all can be achieved with cyclodextrins, and the outcome is can be pretty remarkable. I'm not saying that this is always like this super impressive 40-fold absorption improvement, because it depends on the type of cyclodextrin and on the active ingredient, but it can help a lot and to create food supplements that really work. That's the key here. And to feature some of the developments we are working on, quercetin, you can see the solubility can be improved over 250-fold with the help of quercetin or berberine. The beauty is that when you have a cyclodextrin, you achieve all these features with the complexation in one step. So you have a poor solubility, the cyclodextrin solves it. But if your stability is also poor, the cyclodextrin can improve the stability and the solubility at the same time, and also mess the taste at the same time. So if you make a good complex, you can achieve or you can hit uh, several birds with one stone if it comes to that, with a technology that's easily scalable and industrializable. So we did it with berberine, and we also did a lot of experiments with astaxanthin and other omega type of fish oil compounds. So any of these fatty acid or fatty type of molecules are uh, pretty ideal for cyclodextrin to encapsulate and to improve. So here in this case, the stability, besides the water solubility, is certainly improved. I'm not sharing more examples. There are a lot of features, but if you're interested, you can follow my colleague Tamas Vargadi on LinkedIn. He's posting he's created these beautiful figures, and he also posts a lot about such food supplements. So you can reach out to him if you have specific questions. So where else, when we are moving away from foods, but we are still in the mouth? So dentistry and oral hygiene, there are a lot of cyclodextrin based, or not based, but containing mouthwashes. Um, from one point of view, again, to solubilize ingredients, but from another uh, uh, point of view, it can also help in the against viral infections. So it can have some improved uh, hygiene effect, or I wouldn't say sterilization effect, but okay, to improve the hygiene of the mouth. So there are toothpaste and even fillings with cyclodextrins, but the mouthwash especially during the COVID period, was very popular with cyclodextrins. The other big area is cosmetics. The cosmetic industry is probably one of the biggest users of cyclodextrins globally, which is not something that's advertised, not something that's well known. But if you, I don't know, look at the ingredient list of the cosmetics you are using at home, I would have pretty high bets that you have some cyclodextrins in your bathroom even today, because a lot of different cosmetics contain cyclodextrins for different reasons. So there is the solubilization, but there is the stabilization, especially a lot of sun creams contain cyclodextrins, or uh, any kind of creams that contain light or oxygen sensitive substances to stabilize them. Cyclodextrins can also help the permeation, the skin permeation of certain compounds. So a lot of skincare products contain cyclodextrins for those reasons. As we said, they can help in creating emulsions, so they can be incorporated just from the technology perspective, but they can also help with the fragrances. So the release of the active ingredient from the cyclodextrin cavity is a thermodynamic process or yeah, process. Um, and usually happens upon dilution. So if you that means okay upon humidity or contact with water. And if you use cyclodextrins in a perfume, let's say, then the this dilution factor is very low, and usually the dilution happens as you sweat. So technically, if you use a cyclodextrin-based perfume, it will have a controlled release, so the volatility of the active ingredient will be suppressed, meaning that it will have its smell, but more gradually will it be released from the cyclodextrin. However, if you start sweating for whatever reason, the release will be quicker, and that is okay one of the features. By the way, based on the very same concepts, mosquito repellent sprays are also developed so that okay, when you are outside and you're sweating and you attract the mosquitoes, you um, you can mm, I don't know the right word, but okay, the mosquito repellent citric compounds are released from the fragrance and they're done. Odor masking is also an alternative. So if you use empty cyclodextrins, it can help you capture bad odor molecules, so um, unpleasant odors. We'll see examples in the household products, but it also happened in the cosmetics or textile space, for instance, where the purpose was to cover the certain parts of the shirts or spray them with cyclodextrins, empty cyclodextrins, and whenever there is sweating and unpleasant odor, the cyclodextrins, the empty cyclodextrins would catch the other molecules and the odor's presence would be masked. You will not be able to smell it. And when you wash the clothes, you just empty the cyclodextrins while you're the washing because the dilution happens. So yeah, it's pretty wonderful. And the skin irritation can also be reduced. Okay, I'm talking too much. I have to um, speed up a little bit. I'm not talking about this because, okay, I explained in the former slides the uses why someone would use cyclodextrins in cosmetics, stability, solubility, penetration, and a lot of other reasons. So I just brought you a nice example to explain a little bit better with the CarboHance technology. So retinol is debated, but still very popular component in different cosmetic products, but it has a lot of stability and other issues. So, for instance, the irritation. Free retinol can cause quite severe irritation to the skin, but if it's incorporated into the cyclodextrin itself is a very skin-friendly molecule, and the release of the retinol will be gradual. The contact with the skin will be much slower, and the irritation will be reduced, and the tolerability will be improved. And at the same time, I said, several birds with one stone. You can improve the chemical stability of the retinol. You can have a controlled release for a longer time and even a higher bioavailability. So you win a lot. And okay, again, it's not retinol specific. You can technically incorporate a lot of different fatty compounds into the cyclodextrin, but this is how it works. So, but the cosmetic industry is one of the fields where there is also innovation. So these I wouldn't consider innovation because putting an active ingredient into the cyclodextrin is not really an innovation. This is what people have been doing with the cyclodextrins for a long time. But conjugating active ingredients to cyclodextrins is certainly something new, something that the pharma also experimented with, but never made into success. But the retinol example exists as a retinol cyclodextrin conjugate as well. And it's combined with a microneedle technology. So this example is from a Korean company, but the cyclodextrin retinol conjugate exists in other products as well. So here there is again, clinical evidence on people that if you conjugate the retinol to the cyclodextrin, you can even boost the bioavailability further compared to the cyclodextrin complex and have a significantly better effect. So here is technically a new chemical that was developed with cyclodextrins for cosmetic industry. Not only new derivatives, but new drug delivery systems. So metal organic frameworks is a topic that's pretty hot in pharmaceutical and other areas, but in the cosmetic industry is something on the market. So based on cyclodextrins, here you can see that these are cyclodextrins. So it's a cyclodextrin-based metal organic framework that can where you can load active ingredients into the framework. It's a drug delivery technology that uses native cyclodextrins. It's pretty easy to create, and it has very versatile use. And the late Sir Fraser Stoddart developed this technology and created a luxury cosmetic brand. It's called Noble Panacea that focuses specifically on delivering different active ingredients with cyclodextrin-based metal organic framework. So as far as I know, this is the only commercial use of this delivery technology. The claims are enhanced delivery, improved skin penetration, long-term release, and so on. So it's organic supramolecular vessels. This is how they branded the technology. Certainly an innovation and certainly not coming from pharma. The most famous, probably if we are talking about non-pharmaceutical uses, Febreze is the product that everyone would know. Well, most of you would know. In Hungary, it's not existing, so here no one would know it. But the concept is similar to what I explained with the t-shirt. There is an empty cyclodextrin among other components in the spray, but the role of the empty cyclodextrin is that when you use the spray, it captures hydrophobic, typically bad odor molecules. It can be used during, I don't know, washing, cleaning, often associated with pets and stuff like that. But odor trapping is the role of the cyclodextrin. It's hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin that's included, by the way. Okay, let's move to another industry, packaging, or kind of packaging. So here you will see a lot of innovations at the same time. Food security. So there is an issue with the transportation of especially vegetables and fruits that you would like to keep them ripe, but not too ripe before they reach their destination, especially when it comes to uh, sea cargoes and transporting via the sea, which can take a long time. So what they use is this molecule, 1-methylcyclopropane, to prevent them from ripening during the process. And the problem is that this is a gas molecule. So if you fill the packaging with or the container or whatever with this molecule, it gets consumed pretty quickly. And the idea is that they use alpha cyclodextrin, put the methylcyclopropane into the alpha cyclodextrin that releases it based on humidity. So it can be controlled how it's released, and it can be a gradual release. And accordingly, you can postpone the ripening with a fairly easy technology. The trick is that this molecule is a gas. So you're loading a gas into the cyclodextrin. It's not easy, but it's not okay, it's more complicated than loading another active ingredient, but it can be done pretty easily. And we have someone talking. Okay, not anymore. Anyhow, So, so yeah, this is also a technology that's on the market, and it can be used for different type of products. Another fascinating use of packaging is raccoon repellent trash bags. This is also something that's on the market. It was especially developed for the US market. So here the trick is that menthol is encapsulated into cyclodextrins because menthol is a natural repellent um, for raccoons, apparently, and they incorporated the complex into the film of the trash bags that kept the animals away. Pretty smart idea. So the textile industry, I already said an example with the t-shirts, or even two, maybe with the mosquito repellents. But during COVID, some masks were also either made with cyclodextrins or incorporated with cyclodextrins. So there they discovered that cyclodextrins can have a chemical barrier that aids the protection against the COVID virus, by the way, also other viruses, and that they can spray it on the surface of the masks, or they can also immobilize cyclodextrins on the surface of the mask, depending on how you want to use them. If you spray it, it's a one-time use. If you chemically bind it, then you can, after washing, technically reuse the concept. So there were different products on the market for this application. Then we are moving towards environmental applications. And again, we see a new cyclodextrin that became marketed, and it wasn't developed in pharma. So it's a polymerized cyclodextrin. Uh, the use of cyclodextrins for environmental remediation, wastewater treatment is a topic that has been explored and known for a very long time. So it was discovered quite a few decades ago already that cyclodextrins can extract certain medicines, uh, chemicals, drug intermediates from waste waters or for certain toxic components from the soil. But this technology was never found economic compared to current solutions. So if you compare charcoal to sophisticatedly made new cyclodextrin derivatives, obviously the latter would perform better and would be much more expensive. Then came this US company called Cyclopure, who developed Dexorb, which is a cyclodextrin polymer, and it's not an easy polymer to make. So I wouldn't say that from a chemistry perspective, it's very easy to make. But what they figured out is, okay, so if we cannot use the cyclodextrin, so first of all, they picked a good target because PFAS was is a big issue then, and the people were very interested in not drinking PFAS and having a clear water if available. So they picked a good target, but they also realized that treating thousands and millions of liters of water with cyclodextrins would probably be something that's not realistic as a first step, at least. Probably governments wouldn't fund that kind of initiative, but who will pay for such a product, such an invention? Well, the people will pay for such an invention. So let's not go for the big guys and wastewater treatment plants. Let's go for households and say that, okay, we have a filter that you can buy for a few tens of dollars. And you can have PFAS-free water every day in your kitchen. And the product got very successful, and of course they developed some supportive services. But here the business model was the great invention. And I must mention that, okay, while Cyclopure is the company who makes the polymer to remove. Um, to remove PFAS from the boiler. There is another company called FredSense. They use also cyclodextrin polymers, different polymers, but their aim is the detection. So they created a tool how they can detect very sensitively PFAS in the water. So it's a different technology, but similar aim. There were other more ambitious goals for environmental applications of cyclodextrins. Here, a new per-O-methyl alpha cyclodextrin was used, and the idea was to capture carbon dioxide from the air. To help to reduce the CO2 emission. While the concept is, I would say, fairly successful, it's not ready for industrialization, neither from the cyclodextrin nor from the technology point of view, but it's an interesting. So again, gas encapsulation with cyclodextrin environmental application. Still kind of environment, but also shifting towards industrial application. So this is a cycloplasma technology. I really like this one. It was developed in Germany. So here they treat wood houses, technology, the wooden structure of the houses that that uh, were that were built decades ago with less environment friendly or health friendly materials, and they technically emit lindane and PCP, and those are affecting the people who live there. And they developed this kind of cover which contains empty cyclodextrins, and whenever these toxic compounds are emitted from the wood, the empty cyclodextrins captures them, so they don't get to the air. Um, so it's a colorless like a lac or something like that. It's a very nice technology. Um, then again, moving outside the Earth, there are analytical applications of cyclodextrins that are exploited in the space industry. So cyclodextrins are chiral molecules, and it is assumed that when we are looking for extraterrestrial signals of life, we assume that chirality is probably something that is a prerequisite of life. So without that kind of special recognition, life couldn't really exist, in our current opinion. So we are looking for chiral compounds, and since cyclodextrins are chiral themselves, they can usually distinguish between, for instance, the two versions of amino acids or other molecules. So when they take samples in the space on these little Mars shuttles and rovers and stuff like that, they have very small local analyzers that use cyclodextrins for the separation of chiral compounds. Of course, it's not a big application, but it's fascinating. Going back to the chemical industry, similar to the lac, paintings with cyclodextrins also exist for various reasons. So there could be fragrance incorporation, so you can have nice smelling walls for a long time with cyclodextrins, or you can incorporate other volatile agent like the mosquito repellent stuff into cyclodextrin-based paintings, but it can also prevent mildew. Or mask the odors, depending on what you want to incorporate. This uses mainly methylated cyclodextrin. And towards extremities or modern applications and advanced materials, 3D printing with cyclodextrins is being or getting a lot of attention and a lot of popularity. Usually, this technology uses rotaxanes, which is a very special type of cyclodextrin. So as you remember, cyclodextrin was a ring-shaped molecule, and rotaxane is like a necklace from the cyclodextrin, where The pearls on the necklace are the cyclodextrins, and the chain itself is a polyethylene glycol or something like that. And the cyclodextrin rings can shift on the necklace. So these technologies are used for self-healing materials, car paints where after the scratching it heals themselves, or phone covers, or even, well, medical devices or other 3D printed systems, because they're very flexible, but they're also very strong. And lastly, before all the industrial applications, although I wouldn't say it's very typical, but I also found patents where cyclodextrins are incorporated into different raw materials of artwork to improve temperature resistant mechanical strength, or improve the structure of materials. So maybe in the future we'll see also artwork that contains cyclodextrins, not only practical products. Uh, oh, sorry. Uh, oh, just a second. Not really sure what happened here. Uh, Sorry, but technically, oh, no, where are we? Uh, yeah, but in any case, that was that was the last slide already. Uh, so as you could see, there are all these industries that already use cyclodextrins. A lot of industries also innovate with cyclodextrins. In some cases, it's just a new application or a new technology. In other cases, it's a completely new molecule. What could enable this? Well, first of all, and why this was not happening 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, cyclodextrins were extremely expensive, and the pharmaceutical industry was the only one that could afford. By now, the price sensitivity of a lot of industries are not as strict as they used to be, and there are certain products in any industries like cosmetics, food supplements, and so on, which are really luxury type and um, can afford more expensive materials, but cyclodextrins are also much cheaper than they used to be. Uh, a lot of these applications focus on creating also data. So there is always a good target. There is always an unmet need where there is no other solution, or the other solutions are significantly worse than the cyclodextrin alternative, and this becomes appealing for partners. And as you could see, in some cases, it was just the twist in the business concept that you don't necessarily have to go and solve a global problem of the PFAS. You can also solve the local problem of the PFAS, and that could be the starting point of nice innovation. So, for instance, Cyclopure started with the household products, but now they are at the stage of testing their products in wastewater treatment plants. So they are reaching that stage, but they build up a very nice concept. So let me just finish with the hope that cyclodextrins are hopefully the rings that all of us can afford to develop something new, even outside pharma industry. And with that, I thank you for your attention. And please, I'll stop the sharing, and please start writing any questions that you may have into the chat box. I'll read them out loud, and we can discuss them. Okay, let me just bring up the chat. We are in time. We have roughly 12-ish minutes, so that should be Sufficient. Mm. What do you think about polyurethane gels in general? David is asking, do you think they have future in the pharmaceutical industry, even though the synthesis procedure can be quite difficult? Whew, so polyurethane gels. So I would say that it depends on what would be the purpose of the use. So there are a lot of uses in the pharmaceutical space for polyurethane, and there are a lot of uses outside the pharmaceutical world for polyurethane. So far, for me, the non-pharma applications were more convincing. So this kind of self-healing materials, creating advanced materials based on polyurethane was uh, a technology that was novel and innovative. In the pharmaceutical space, for instance, for drug delivery, we have seen much less promise from these systems. And when it comes to pharmaceutical applications, the question is always this. So we have the new polyurethane gel technology, but we have to compare it with other existing solutions. And they will only succeed if they are either significantly cheaper, which your question implies is not the case, or they outperform badly or can do something that the other systems are not capable of. And I think for polyurethane, currently this is not the case, but I may not be aware of all the informations, but basically I believe that new cyclodextrin based excipients have room if they can do something that other excipients cannot. Philip is asking how cyclodextrins are produced from starch and modified by enzymatic modification. Okay, that's a good question. So we have the starch chain, and from the starch, cyclodextrins are made enzymatically, so by cyclodextrin glucosyl transferase enzymes. So it's a biotechnology process that yields a mixture of the alpha, beta, gamma cyclodextrins, and then you can shift the production with certain additives or different type of enzymes towards the alpha, beta, and the gamma. Other cyclodextrins currently cannot be produced economically. So there are larger ring cyclodextrins, but they cannot be produced. So the enzymatic uh, procedure yields alpha, beta, and the gamma cyclodextrins, and then the modification is chemical. So it's a semi-synthetic compound that comes. It's possible also to modify cyclodextrins, I mean the native cyclodextrins enzymatically and make derivative cyclodextrins purely by enzymatic modifications. But these are not commercial technologies so far, although in some cases there seems to be a need. Can I elaborate on food supplement health claims applicable in Europe? Is it possible to make health claims with certain cyclodextrins, for example, related to cholesterol? What dosage would be required? So, of course, generally, I would say that you cannot make health claims for cyclodextrins as a whole, but for alpha cyclodextrin, specifically human clinical data exists on a lot of health markers. So lowering glycemic or how to say stabilizing, probably that's the better word, stabilizing blood sugar after eating, so lowering insulin response, lowering glycemic index of certain compounds is a clinically proven feature of cyclodextrin. So is the reduction of absorbed fat, or for instance, there was a clinical trial. So we are talking about several clinical trials for alpha cyclodextrin. There is one that that was targeted on the athletic performance of uh, athletes that consume cyclodextrin, and these were all successful studies. What dosage? So pretty much, I would say. Typically, what is the suggested dose? I think it's around 5 grams a day. So it's creatine level. So I would say that I think from the creatine, they also suggest for people to take 3 to 6 grams a day. Probably the cyclodextrin would be somewhere in the similar range. So I haven't tried myself, but I think that the health claims are pretty well funded for the cyclodextrins. Can cyclodextrins trap, immobilize to stabilize oxygen-sensitive ingredients in oxygen-low environments? So, okay, this question, Philip, I don't understand. Uh, Oxygen-sensitive ingredients, cyclodextrins can certainly trap, not all of them, but okay, it depends on oxygen. Can it trap? No, oxygen it cannot trap. So cyclodextrin cavity is usually for apolar molecules, ideally at least. So the higher, the more apolar the molecule is, the higher it would, the better it would be suited for cyclodextrin complexation. Ideally, these are organic molecules, so dominantly organic molecules that are not water soluble. There are some inorganic molecules also, like the carbon dioxide we have seen, but oxygen concentrate complexation I haven't ever seen, and I don't think that it will be a stable complex, even if you could. Oxygen is also very small, even for a cyclodextrin, so it's something that I haven't seen, and I don't think it's likely, but could be. Is there any situation in which cyclodextrin can cause unwanted effects in the human body? So yes, there are quite a few of those. So from the simplest, uh, as a starch derivatives, you eat it as a food, cyclodextrin behaves as other type of oligosugars. So like, I don't know, saccharose or something like that. So it can cause uh, in high amounts gastric discomfort, so like diarrhea, stuff like that, but nothing permanent. Some cyclodextrins, if so, cyclodextrins do not have very low bioavailability. They don't get absorbed from the blood mostly, most of them at least. But some cyclodextrins, if they get to the bloodstream, they can cause severe side effects. So there are cyclodextrins where there are toxicity issues if administered parenterally. Um, and for skin products, like for cosmetics, there are issues potentially with irritation. In some cases, it's concentration dependent, but you can drop an email if you have a specific question about it, because this has a lot of literature, what kind of application you have. And technically, there are safe limits. Usually, it's like, what kind of cyclodextrin I can use for a specific application, and there are regulatory limits on the safety dose you can do, and then you're safe. Typically, it's not a bottleneck for development. Shima, thank you for attending. Question regarding cyclodextrin gels and 3D printing. It's often reported that cyclodextrin-based gels can exhibit relatively low stability during or after printing. Do you have any insights or recommendations how the stability of these gels could be improved? Okay, so you got me. I must admit that I've never done 3D printing with cyclodextrin gels. So this is something that I have to look up, because I don't want to provide you any kind of false information from the top of my head. I have no idea why this could happen. Cyclodextrin based gels are not very stable systems, so the circumstances of the 3D printing can easily disrupt the structure of such gels, but I've never done any experiment myself, so this is something that I have to look up myself. Don't have a recommendation. Are you planning another cyclodextrin quiz in the future? Oh, okay, David. So typically we do it only once a year, but okay, I reconsider that question. Maybe we can do it for the close of the semester in June. That could be a good idea before we all go on summer breaks. Um, Hearing loss, yeah, Petra, hearing loss reported with cyclodextrins. So yes, that's true, and that will be the last question I can answer. So hearing loss is reported for a parenteral application of hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin. Um, the the reason of the hearing loss is not unambiguous, so we still don't know to this day what is causing the hearing loss, but it's probably associated with cholesterol removal. In this case, just so that you understand, so there is parenteral administration of the cyclodextrin, and the dose of the cyclodextrin is approximately around 100 gram a day. So this is by far exceeding any other known application of this. And this is a chronic treatment. So 100 gram a day, I don't know, once a week, twice a week for years. All the safety data that are based on the use of cyclodextrins, chronic or acute treatment, are using a significantly lower effect. And I'm quite convinced that this hearing loss is associated with the high effect or the high dose of the cyclodextrin. So whenever the dose is smaller, the typical dose is a few grams, up to a few grams a day from this or any other cyclodextrin. There are no permanent side effects reported. It's only the renal clearance that has to be considered pretty significantly, but that's for parenteral drugs, so not really for the topic of the day. But if you're thinking about parenteral application and high dose of cyclodextrin, then this is something to be considered. But it's the only case. So very high dose of hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin can cause hearing loss that has been reported. It was also shown that other cyclodextrins at the same dose will not have the same effect. So it's not something specific to cyclodextrins, it's something specific to hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin. So thank you all for your attending. It was a pleasure to have you all here. I wish you a very nice day and look forward to seeing you at some other CarboHyde masterclasses in the future. Take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.